Hello everyone, Marco255 here and welcome back to the FNaF Retrospective. To remind you of my thoughts on FNaF 3, I think that game holds up surprisingly well, with great gameplay, story moments, music of all things, and of course, Springtrap. However, like I mentioned in the last episode, a ton of people were not really glad with FNaF 3 when it came out, mainly because Springtrap's jump scare was just downright miserable. I mean, he literally just walks up to you like he's gonna talk about how DARPA stands for Dick Ass Rump Pussy Ass. How could there be something worse than this jump scare? Anyways, Scott looked at this criticism and really thought about what he could possibly do in order to fix this clear problem people had. His solution? Make a game that uses all of the most common ways people scare players and amp it up to 72. After a planned release date of Halloween, he ultimately decided fuck it and released the game on the 25th of July 2015, with a Halloween update on the day before Halloween in the same year. It seemed as if most people were happy with this game at the time, until a certain game theorist proposed a theory that everything was a dream in the whole franchise, which was so plausible, people rioted hard against Scott's decision to have this be where the story ends. So he came up with what everyone obviously wanted soon after. A cartoon RPG that was barely canon and immediately regretted making soon after. We'll get to that game eventually, but for now, let's talk about the fourth game in this retrospective. FNaF 4, Stop Now or Die. I always adored this game when I got into the community, considering it one of, if not, the best of the entire series. But I obviously never played it, so I never truly got to see my personal, actual views on the game. I now completely understand why I loved this game so much back then, and whilst this playthrough did give me some issues I have with this game, I can totally see how this game slaps. I guess we should start with the whole reason why Scott decided to make this game in the first place, the horror. Oh my god, this game is the most terrifying thing I have ever experienced. Anyone who watched the stream of this game would know that I didn't get past night 3 on stream, because of how terrifying this game is. Fuck. These are genuine reactions. No Markiplier exaggeration here. Everything about the gameplay taps into every single aspect games use to scare the player, and it is absolutely horrific. You have to listen carefully at the doors with little to no visual cues, tapping into the fear of the dark and not knowing where something is. The jump scares are all some of the best in the series, because of the intense movements and the character designs. I'll talk more about the animatronics later, but I'll just say they work perfectly with the gameplay, being something you only get glimpses of until the actual jump scares, being completely unexpected and sufficiently terrifying. The fear of home invasion is also used, because the game takes place in just a regular house, making use of a very real scenario, and obviously amping it up to unrealistic levels. That doesn't have the biggest focus, but it's still here at least, and I wanted to mention it. Heck, there's even jump scares in the post-night minigames. That's how much Scott cared about making a terrifying experience. Literally everything about this game comes together to create what is easily the scariest game I've ever played. However, one thing I do think is missing in this game is cool shots of the characters. This is pretty much the only thing that is unfortunately made worse by this kind of audio-focused gameplay, because there's very little to look at of the characters outside of the jump scares and the extras menu, so there's no chance of any cool camera frames. However, it does look pretty cool when the characters slowly walk off when they're not directly at your door, as well as some Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare's frames in the hallway. Overall, the horror in this game is easily the absolute most terrifying in the entire series, and I doubt any of the other games will even remotely get close to how horrific this one is, aside from, I guess, maybe Help Wanted. I was genuinely thinking I wouldn't beat this game and focus on other aspects for this video purely because of how scary this game is. So yeah, good job Scott. Anyways, is the gameplay even fun, or is it just baiting spooks? Well, I didn't like it too much at first, mainly because of how terrifying it is, but after actually beating the game and seriously considering it, I can say that this is probably the most solid gameplay in the series yet. Focusing on audio was such a good choice, and whilst FNaF 1 was well-rounded and I personally just really enjoyed FNaF 3's gameplay loop, this game just excels at the audio and never felt unfair in the slightest. Every death I took felt like my fault, because I easily understood what I did wrong to make myself die. Here's a rough explanation of how to deal with all the characters. Bonnie comes down the left hallway, Chica comes down the right hallway. If you go up to the door and hear breathing, close the door until you hear footsteps, where you can open it back up and move on. Freddy is a character you need to keep your attention on for the most part, similar to the puppet from FNaF 2, except within this gameplay loop, it works a lot better and feels a lot less luck-based. Just turn around and keep your flashlight on until the Freddles go away. There were many times where I'd think I'd be close to dying from Freddy, yet I actually die from Bonnie or Chica because I simply forgot to check them in time because of all the stress. Foxy has probably one of my favourite mechanics in one of these games so far, because he constantly runs from the left and right hallway with his own sound cue for when he does. If he starts to make a mad dash for you with a different sound cue from others, fuck you FNaF 2, try to get to that door and flash your light down to make sure that he won't get in your room. If he does, he'll go into your closet and you'll have to keep closing it throughout the rest of your night, basically becoming another Freddy. This mechanic works so well with the rest of the gameplay loop, and makes things so much harder when he gets in, yet it never feels unfair or even luck-based honestly. Yes, luck is involved heavily with aspects of this game, but no death I experienced felt like bad luck. It was all me messing up or not getting to something in time. We're not done with the gameplay talk yet though, because there's 2 more characters we must go over. On night 5, instead of having one final difficult challenge that tests the skills you've gathered like previous games, you instead face off against one single animatronic, Nightmare Fredbear. He is basically a mishmash of all the previous guys, spawning in all the different locations with various sound cues, such as laughing when he enters your room, or footsteps to show which hallway he's gonna enter. It's such a fun and stressful night that really goes to show how one animatronic to fight should be done. FNaF 3 got close in my eyes, but FNaF 4 succeeded with flying colours. Nightmare is basically just Fredbear but harder, so don't really need to say anything else here. Overall, FNaF 4's core gameplay is insanely fun and terrifying in the best way imaginable, by far being the best in the series so far. That's technically not all for the gameplay however, as Fun with Plush Trap exists, and it's okay. I mean, it's a great idea executed fairly well, but on my playthrough I did it fairly easily on my first try. Then every other time it appeared, he literally refused to move away from the chair at all, so yeah, it's fairly forgettable but not miserable. At least it doesn't take away from literally anything else in the game. So yeah, gameplay as a whole for this game is like a 9 out of 10, so close to perfection. If there were more visual cues, I think this game could be actual classic FNaF perfection, but I'm so glad this game exists for the gameplay alone. Anyways, let's now go over things which probably won't take as long to talk about. For me, the animatronic designs are really damn good. I can understand why some people may think that they're a little too try-hard, but I've always absolutely loved them. Each of them have huge grotesque bodies with sharp teeth, countless holes showing an endoskeleton, and so much more, which all makes it super appealing to me. If I had to pick a favourite however, it would not be someone from the main game. If you remember what I said earlier, Scott released a Halloween update which simply added reskins of most of the characters, excluding Nightmare Freddy and Fredbear. For the most part, these are fairly decent and aren't really too interesting to talk about. However, one character out of these I think is so much more unique and interesting than any other character even in the original, and that one is Night Marion. Night Marion is so different from literally every other animatronic you face in this game, being a slim, clean being with a frankly pretty unsettling design when seen in-game. I'd even say that the jump scare frame is insanely well made too, even though it's just a single image. It's a ton more unsettling than Nightmare's jump scare, and you can actually overlay the 2 jump scare frames to make an actual creepy as hell image. I also love Night Marion for the story potential they have. YouTuber Ozone has made a video explaining the huge amount of potential that Night Marion has as a character, and I'd highly recommend you watch it after this, as that video partially got me to love Night Marion as much as I do. They easily have the most potential out of any other character in FNaF 4, and they're just so cool looking. I mean, look at this. Easily one of my personal favourite animatronics in the series, just for the design alone. Anyways, we now have to talk about the story of this game, and I'm gonna be honest, this is where things get really weird. There's these sections after every one of the main nights that show a child getting... oh, wait a sec. Much better for the occasion. Anyways, these minigames show the events leading up to one of the most important events in the FNaF series, that occurs on the final one after beating Night 5. We see this child we've been playing as during the minigames, don't want to confuse people, cowering while some bullies surround him. The bullies pick him up and take him to the stage, where one of them thinks it's a good idea for the horrified child already scared of the animatronics to get as close of a look as possible, by throwing him into the jaws of the Fredbear animatronic, when out of nowhere... Now, I could mention something that you all expect me to mention about this, but I'm nearly a mature adult, so I'm not gonna say that because it's my choice and I should feel no obligation to. At the time, this was a really shocking moment, and I still think it works fairly well today. It is one of the most iconic moments of the series, and definitely a personal favourite. However, I feel the focus on symbolism on FNaF 3's Happiest Day minigame worked a ton better than this, making me like that moment more. This is why I think Night 6's sequence is a lot better, as it brings back a focus on symbolism, implying the death of that child, I'll call the crying child. However, it does have one of the most important lines in FNaF history, which arguably changed the course of the series' next horror entry. I will put you back together. We're still not certain on what this line specifically means, alongside a ton of other aspects about this game. One last thing about the lore I want to mention that I think we have all somewhat forgotten about is this thing. Remember it and how it was one of the biggest pieces of discussion in the community? Well, no one seems to talk about it now, and I'm still confused about it. Why is it here? Does it represent something? Why does text pop up saying perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now? And what's inside? Did we figure it out? Do we not care anymore? Does it even matter? No one knows, and at this point, Scott probably doesn't even know. It's all of the stuff in this game which left it insanely open-ended, which people were not happy with. So Scott ended up making a horror FNaF game which tried to fix the open-endedness. And many people hate it now. I believe that is every aspect I wanted to talk about within this game, so let's end this. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 both met and exceeded my expectations, being one of the best horror games I've ever played. I haven't played many, with really well made and terrifying gameplay, fantastic character designs, and various story moments that hold up very well today. I do think that the story could have used some retooling to steer us in a better direction here, because it's extremely difficult to remotely figure out what's going on in this game, but every other aspect makes up for that and even goes beyond it. I was originally going to put this game just above FNaF 1, but after careful consideration, I think this is our first S-tier FNaF game, everyone. I understand if you hate the gameplay and the animatronic designs because they are quite different to most other FNaF games that came both before and after, but all that appeals to me a ton. Either FNaF World or Sister Location will be next, and these games have the wildest community opinions over the years, so yeah, I'm super interested in what I'll think. In fact, I made a poll on my community post saying whether I should tackle FNaF World next, or pair it with all the other FNaF spin-offs at a later date, so check that out soon after this. Anyways guys, that just about does it for today's video everybody, really hope you all enjoyed it. And if you like my channel, then why not subscribe, click the like button, check out these videos, share with friends and family, check out my Discord server, and click the bell to let you be notified when any new videos come out. Anyways guys, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.